You want to know where you're going, to understand, predict, prepare. You want clarity, direction, control. That's what we've all been taught. If you want to succeed in life, you have to take the wheel. But the tighter you hold on, the more everything slips away. You plan, you hustle, you try your best, and yet something still feels off. Like you're paddling upstream, constantly resisting the current. But what if the problem isn't what you're doing, but how you're doing it? Alan Watts, philosopher, mystic, and 20th century rebel, once said something that turns everything upside down. You are not a stranger in this universe. You are the flow itself. You are life, looking back at itself. What if you've never actually been separate from life? What if, like a wave on the ocean, you're made of the same stuff as the current? In this video, we're diving deep into Alan Watts's radical wisdom, a message that's simple and yet powerful enough to transform the way you live, why you are never in control, and why that's a relief, not a loss. How letting go isn't weakness, it's a higher kind of intelligence, and how you can stop forcing and finally start flowing with life. No need to be spiritual, no need to figure it all out. Just look where you never usually look. That quiet movement within you and through you, that's always been there. If this message already stirs something inside you, even faintly, then go ahead and subscribe, because this isn't just an idea. It might just be the start of an inner shift. Let's begin. Who was Alan Watts, and why does his vision feel like an invitation to finally stop resisting and start being? Part 1. Alan Watts, the bridge between worlds. Picture a young boy in early 20th century England. Quiet, inquisitive, always watching. While the grown-ups talk about reality, he sees something else. Mystery, movement behind stillness, a world that breathes beneath the surface. That boy was Alan Watts. Born in 1915, in a Britain still steeped in Victorian values, he stumbles upon ancient texts from the East, Zen, Taoism, Buddhism, and they don't sound like anything he's ever heard at school. No sin, no dogma, no demand for control. Instead, they speak of letting go, of moving with the current, of realizing you were never separate from the whole. Watts eventually moves to the United States. He studies theology, becomes an Anglican priest, but the rigid structure of institutions soon begins to choke him. So he walks away, not out of rebellion against God, but out of love for the aliveness of existence. He begins to write, to teach, to speak anywhere someone will hand him a microphone. His voice is sharp, playful, unfiltered, not trying to convert, but to awaken. He becomes one of the first to translate the spirit of Eastern wisdom into Western language, without mystification, without cliches. Taoism, Zen, non-duality. He makes them feel close, simple, real. Alan Watts passed away in 1973. But today, his words echo across YouTube, TikTok, Spotify. He speaks through meditation channels, mindfulness podcasts, dreamy nature videos. Why does it still resonate? Because his message is rare. It whispers something most people are too afraid to say. You don't need to control life. You need to move with it. Part 2. Flow. According to Alan Watts, stop pushing, start moving with life. What does flow mean for Alan Watts? Not the productivity hustle, not the endless grind toward success. Flow, for Watts, is something deeper, a quiet harmony with life itself, a dance with the present moment. He puts it like this: trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. In other words, it's impossible. You're not a fixed object to pin down. You're not standing outside of life, watching it happen. You are life itself, moving, shifting, evolving. So when Watts talks about letting go, he's not promoting laziness or passive detachment. He's pointing to something far more radical, a return to the natural movement of things. Like water finding its path not by force, but by flowing around resistance. Effortless, but not aimless. This is pure Taoism. The natural course of things doesn't need your will. Life doesn't need to be pushed. It unfolds, fluid, alive. It echoes the words of Lao Tzu: the sage does not fight, yet nothing resists him. It sounds like a paradox, but it's the power of non-resistance. When you stop pushing, you don't collapse, you awaken. If the idea of active surrender speaks to you, you'll love my previous video on Lao Tzu and the art of Wu Wei, that beautiful concept of effortless action, where the wise don't force life, and yet they are never overcome by it. It's the perfect next step after this one, a deeper dive into the kind of timeless wisdom that Alan Watts so often echoed. Flow, Wu Wei, two different voices pointing toward the same truth, living in harmony with the natural rhythm of life. And then there's Heraclitus. You never step in the same river twice, because nothing is static. Life is change, and the moment you cling to a rigid identity or a fixed outcome, you create friction against the flow of existence. Watts often reminded us, muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. The clarity you seek doesn't come through control, it comes through stillness, through trust. Because the more you fight life, the more life pushes back. The more we struggle for life, the more we are controlled by it. So how do we live in this flow? How do we surrender without disappearing? Watts invites us to something radical, a kind of deep inner trust. Trust in the movement of life itself. Trust that things unfold in their own rhythm, not by domination, but by alignment. This is what real freedom feels like. A quiet, unforced harmony, a soft rhythm pulsing through everything, including you. If this resonates with you, if you've ever felt a moment where life moved through you instead of against you, share it in the comments. Like this video if you want to explore more of this ancient wisdom, reframed for today's world. And of course, subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss what's coming next. Part 3. The Paradox of Effort: Why Forcing Takes Us Further from Ourselves. In modern society, success is often equated with pushing harder, staying in control, and never letting go. We're taught that the path forward is through struggle, mastering our circumstances, disciplining our thoughts, and forcing life into shape. But Alan Watts turns this idea upside down. For him, our obsession with control is a deep illusion, one that traps us inside our own minds. The ego, this idea of a separate I trying to run the show, is just a mental construct, a mirage. The more you try to force life, the more disconnected you become from life itself. You exhaust yourself trying to swim upstream, when life, in its essence, is like a river, fluid, dynamic, ever-changing. You can't tame it. You can only learn to flow with it. Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. That's the paradox Watts keeps coming back to. The more you chase control, the more freedom slips through your fingers. By trying to master life, you end up in a constant inner conflict, anxious, rigid, and off balance. Instead, he invites us into what he calls non-effort, not laziness, not resignation, but a state of presence that aligns with the natural movement of life, much like the Taoist concept of wu wei, effortless action without resistance. Life isn't a problem to solve, it's more like music to play. It's not a race to the finish line, but a rhythm to move with, a melody to enjoy in each moment. Life is not a journey with a destination. It's like music, which is supposed to be played, not completed. This metaphor says everything. Stop trying to control the rhythm. Start listening. Start dancing. When you practice this kind of conscious non-effort, something opens. You find yourself breathing deeper. You drop the mental noise. And in that space, you begin to feel deeply, vividly alive. Part 4, Living in Flow. 3 keys to stop struggling and start flowing. You've probably felt it before. That suspended moment when everything just clicks into place. When effort fades away. All that remains is full presence. A smooth movement, a clear thought, the right action. This is what Alan Watts calls flow. It's not some rare state reserved for artists, geniuses, or Himalayan monks. It's about being fully available to life, right here, right now. A resonance with the world that happens when we stop resisting and just are. But how do you get there? Not by trying harder, not by forcing yourself to let go, but by flipping 3 core ideas that modern society has drilled into you. 1. Stop acting like you're separate from the world. It all starts with an illusion, the belief that you're a separate I trapped inside your body facing an outside world. According to Alan Watts, this is the fundamental mistake. The idea that you need to control, survive, dominate because you're alone. But this separation is just a mental construct. It's not real. You are not a stranger here. You are this universe experiencing itself. You're not a grain of sand lost in the desert. You're the wave, inseparable from the ocean. It has its own shape, yes, but it never exists without the water beneath it. Flow begins here, when you stop trying to control the world and start dancing with it, not as an enemy, but as an extension of yourself. 2. Embrace not knowing. The second block is our obsession with mental control, always wanting to understand, predict, plan, and secure. But life hasn't signed a contract with your mind. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. Yet everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. Flow is trusting what is, even when you don't know where it's leading. It's taking a step even when you can't see the whole path. A child dancing doesn't wonder if it's right. A bird doesn't panic about whether it'll know how to fly tomorrow. It flies because the moment is right. And you? Can you trust life inside you even when it doesn't offer guarantees? It's not naivete, it's ancient wisdom, a return to being alive. 3. Turn every moment into a dance. Flow isn't waiting for the perfect opportunity. It's not a prize at the finish line. It's how you step into the moment without expectations, tension, or reasons. Man suffers only because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun. What if life had no external purpose? What if it was pure expression, like fireworks? No logic, no destination, just the joy of being. Then every gesture, even the mundane, can become a dance. Walking, writing, listening, even washing dishes. Not to get somewhere, but to savor the moment itself. Flow isn't performance, it's a quality of lightness and grounded presence. And in a world that pushes you to rush, perform, succeed, this attitude can be the most radical act of all. What happens inside you when you stop forcing? When you let things unfold without resistance? Have you ever tasted that flow moment, even just briefly? Share your experience in the comments. Sometimes a phrase, a memory, or a simple insight can be the spark someone else needs. If this video helps you breathe deeper, see life in a new way, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Not to feed the algorithm, but to keep this journey going toward a more fluid, more alive, more authentic life. Part 5. Watts and the Modern World. Wisdom more relevant than ever. Look around you. You live in a world that pushes you to prove yourself, produce results, perform constantly. Your time is measured, your image is curated, your personal growth tracked with goals, habits, and new versions of yourself. Even spirituality and self-help can sometimes become just another form of control. You have to be more aware, more disciplined, more aligned. But what if Alan Watts challenges all of that? Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. What if you have nothing to prove? Maybe that's Watts's most radical message for our times. In an age obsessed with growth, constant improvement, and self-mastery, he dares to say, you don't need to achieve anything. You don't need to force anything. You already are. Not are as some distant goal, but are as a living dance, a spontaneous expression of the universe. The trap of self-improvement. We thought we were freeing ourselves, yet we've ended up trapped in the idea of becoming someone else. Become the best version of yourself. Rise, surpass yourself, transform. But in trying to be someone different, we forget the simple truth of just being. The more we struggle for life, the more we are actually killing what we love. That's why Watts doesn't invite you to improve yourself, he invites you to play again, like a child, before the world told you how to succeed in life. Rediscovering play, dance, and grace. For Watts, living isn't a test. It's not a mission. It's a cosmic game, a divine joke. Not something to mock, but something to join with lightness. Laugh at yourself. Create without a purpose. Dance without a destination. You're not here to solve life, but to embrace it. And in that silent laughter of awareness, you find your deepest freedom. Modern echoes, other voices whispering the same truth. Alan Watts is not alone. Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now reminds us that peace isn't at the end of the road. It's in the moment when we stop resisting what is. Jiddu Krishnamurti shatters the illusion of inner control. The observer is the observed. You can't change yourself as if you're divided in two. You can only see, feel, be. If this idea sparks your curiosity, you can dive deeper into Krishnamurti's radical teachings in another video on this channel. Krishnamurti on Freedom from the Known, exploring how to break free from the unconscious patterns that shape your reality. A new relationship to yourself, neither rigid nor vague, but alive. No, this path isn't lazy. It takes courage. The courage to not know. The courage to not perform. But it opens you to a wider life, where you stop fighting the current and discover that by letting go, you become the current itself. Conclusion: go with the flow, live fully. You were never separate from the current. From the very start, you've been part of it. Stress, control, tension, they're just mental resistance. Struggling to swim upstream while the river already knows exactly where it's headed. Alan Watts reminds us with disarming clarity, you are the universe experiencing itself. Stop fighting the current. You are the current. You don't need to get yourself together, force your destiny, or take back control. All you have to do is see, listen, breathe. Allow yourself to be carried by the moment without trying to control it. Living isn't about resisting. It's not about calculating every step, every feeling, every relationship. It's about trusting the intelligence of life that's been flowing through you all along. And this trust is not just an idea, it's an experience. A return to who you really are when you stop trying to be. If this resonates with you, know it's not coming from nowhere. You can go deeper. With Lao Tzu in the video Wu Wei, The Art of Effortless Action, you'll discover another side of flow, fertile non-action, radical letting go. And with Krishnamurti in Freedom from the Known, you'll explore a deeper freedom, the freedom that begins when we stop interpreting life through our conditioned filters. Watts, Lao Tzu, Krishnamurti. 3 voices, 1 call. Return to the source. Return to yourself. But without searching, just let it flow. If this video spoke to you, leave a mark. Subscribe to keep exploring this inner journey. Like if you feel this wisdom has a place in our noisy world. Share it with someone who needs it, not ready-made answers, but a softer, wider, freer breath. And hit the bell so you don't miss upcoming explorations. Thank you for taking this time. The world needs more awareness, more silence, more presence. And it all starts with you. See you soon here on Deep Life Lessons.